Yep. Oh, and we're live. Here we go. It's Sam and Federico. It's the AV community meeting in the website One Planner meeting slot. Um, yeah, there was some confusion about this. I guess Federico was saying that he had thought that we would just be rotating them on a bi-weekly basis, which actually sounds sensible in some ways. The reason that I had thought that what we would do is run both of them each week and then rotate them was because Praveen had said this time slot is better for him, and uh, Joao had said that the later time slot is he can't make anything other than the later time slot. So I thought, right, so it's like if we set it at the later time slot, then we're kind of potentially excluding Praveen. If we set it at the earlier one, then we're kind of excluding Joao. So in order to try and occasionally have meetings that are, different people can attend and dip into, I thought, right, let's run both of them each week and rotate the time slot that they're in.
Yeah, see, I didn't catch that last part. Yeah.
No, and I mean, I think that represents probably one, a failure on my part to communicate it effectively, and two, just it's rather complicated, and we don't have a kind of model in the AV website to support that representation, and it just may mean that it's too complicated. On top of that, as it happened, in the end, Praveen did come to the later one last week, although I think it's like after 11 in the evening his time, and Joao did not. It turns out that Joao was on holiday last week and this week, and there you go. And today, here's you and I. So yeah, it's a funny thing with trying to, it's like I think if we had a company with employees, I think it can be difficult to arrange meetings typically when you've got companies and employees and people who are like paid to be in the place. I think when it's everybody's doing it on a wing and a prayer in their volunteer time, it's you can end up on hiding to nothing. You're sharing your screen.
Yeah, so it's hard to ask them to hey, you got to show up.
No, absolutely, and that's and I think that's certainly not what I was leading on to. I think what it means is that we should like probably my attempt to come up with complex solutions to solve it is just you can't. You just need to like have a meeting at a time and leave it there, and then people they show up or they don't, and then if you do it regularly and consistently in a simple pattern, eventually people learn what it is. You can't. You can't adapt and make it work perfectly, which is what I'm always trying to do and I'm failing. But anyway, here we are now with, you said we'd do the AV community meeting, so let's do it that way around. You brought up the remote reporting guidelines. That was, my one sort of agenda item for the AV meeting, which was, so following on from last week where we kind of ratified the community guidelines, there was an action item to add reporting guidelines and grievance processes, which are kind of like what the boilerplate citizen code of conduct requires from us. And I created some, and you read them.
Yes. Yeah.
Any feedback on them?
They seem pretty well written. Pretty rather clear. Nice and short. I think I don't really have any like requests for modifications or anything.
Right.
I mean, I guess we could, since we're recording this, we might, and since they're short, we might just gloss over what they are.
Sure. Do you want to describe to me? Yeah, that might be a way to go. Like, do you want to describe what you think they're saying, and I can like confirm that that's the sort of intent?
Yeah. So we have the new code of conduct, which describes how people should conduct themselves. Basically, be nice is really what it boils down to. But if you witness something, some unacceptable behavior, as it says right here, report it to this email address, and then try to document it, which you've done here well, describing, especially with the screenshot. And this is, I noticed that this is common. People think that with direct messages that it's totally private and they can get away with anything. And there's already been, I think, I don't want to name a company because I forgot the name of it, but there's been sexual harassment cases that have occurred because people thought that they were being private in direct messages, and there was this female employee that just took screenshots, and that caused a lot of chaos in the company because.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, I sort of heard about that tangentially on the news, but not in detail. I hadn't realized that. But I mean, it's interesting what people. I mean, it's just amazing what people, the behavior of some people when they think they're not being observed. I've been shocked. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I it slips on my mind which company that was, so I don't want to. It's one of the big tech companies.
I mean, like, we shouldn't give them any further advertising, should we?
Yeah. And then so yeah, try to take a screenshot, or you note here that provide a link if possible, but the screenshot is even better because links change.
All right.
And that's basically describe the behavior. Is basically what you said. Yeah. So that's the reporting guidelines. Grievance policy, I assume, is like if you feel like you've been, accused incorrectly. Is that right?
I think that I like the whole Citizen Code of Conduct sort of says that like people can report issues of harassment and concern, they bring them up, and then the community organizers are at liberty to take steps, which ideally involves giving warnings and so on. But I think for extremely persistent behavior, it may take the lead step of saying, I'm sorry, we can't have you in the community at the moment. And I think the idea of the grievance policy is that if somebody feels that they have been treated unfairly on the end of these things, then there's the grievance policy for them to sort of say, look, this was unacceptable, or what have you, or it wasn't. The truth was not out. I see Sigu is trying to join, but anyway, does that make sense? A grievance policy. That's.
Yeah, and you basically also repeat, try to document that as well.
Right.
Try to tell your side of the story with evidence, basically, right? With
totally.
Screenshots, and describe it to document it. Yeah. Hey, Sigu.
Hey, Sigu. Good to see you.
I'm not sure.
Good to see you, too.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I didn't have audio there. How are you, Sigu?
Okay, Federico.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We were just so I don't know if you know, Sigu, we incorporated the Citizen Code of Conduct as a general code of conduct for the Agile Ventures community last week in the AV community meeting, and there was a couple of action items for that were to create reporting guidelines and a grievance policy. So we've just been reviewing those. Federico, seeming, I think, it sounds like the ones that I typed out meet with your general approval.
Yes, it is. Well, I would push it out now unless we have more. Unless we want to wait for more feedback, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean that they're live on the site now. I'll just I'm going to post into the chat there just in case you're interested, Sigu. There is this Citizen Code of Conduct. Have you been following the kind of code of conduct discussion that's been going on in GitHub and other places?
Not really. I just saw something that you posted and tagged me, and I think says. I read through, but I didn't read through everything. I didn't really understand what it is about.
Right. Oh, well, maybe I can just give you a quick overview. There's a thing now on, let me share my screen actually. It's it's kind of interesting because I wonder if I can, like, on any repo in GitHub now, there's this the Insights tab, and actually this is an old one, doesn't have it. That's interesting. Oh, maybe they have a paid account and they've turned it off. But on just about everywhere else, they've got this on Insights. It's got this community tab, and when you click it, checklist, and one of them is the code of conduct.
Okay.
And so once you add a code of conduct, it just links to your code of. I'm just trying to think if we've got. Have I got another? I want to show you what it looks like when. So it might be, for example, the AV Static websites. Yeah, I don't think we have. So this is what it looks like when you haven't got some of these things. So they've added this framework to make it really easy to add a contributing.md file, which describes how to submit pull requests, and then really easy to add a code of conduct file, which is kind of. And now, if you open a pull request on a repo that has either of these, it will link to both the contributing MD and the code of conduct in the new pull request. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know how it looks like, but okay.
If I just find like some random thing, I'm not going to create the. If I say here like create pull request. It says see here, it says before you submit a pull request, please review the contributing and conduct guidelines for this repository. And so these automatically link to a contributing MD file if you have one in your root. And we've had one of these for a while. But this is the new thing. I think it's relatively recent, in the last 6 months. If you have code of conduct.md, right, it's going to be added there. So in principle, everyone's attention is drawn to it a little bit whenever they open a pull request.
Okay, nice.
And had you seen this functionality before, Federico? You probably observed that, I guess.
Actually, I had not seen even though I make regular pull requests, I had not seen that before you submit.
Yeah, I think this is pretty subtle, this one. It's easy to miss this one.
Yeah, you take your eyes straight to.
Yeah, you kind of just go.
What you want to write.
It's a light yellow rather than a red, so you kind of come in here. What struck me was, they've made it. So if we go back to, I wonder if I've got it like lost it. If we go back to looking at like a project that doesn't have one in, so I was just like our website, I shall add them. The interesting thing is that when you come in here and so like what is a code of conduct, and that's this code of conduct there, and so it's like, I mean, it's basically a little document that says how the people who are joining in some activity are going to be nice to each other rather than nasty, is I think the idea. And there are two particular things. There's this contributor covenant, which is one for open source projects, and a citizen code of conduct, which is for like communities that don't necessarily have a thing. It's like open source per se, they're just a community. So I've just clicked there, the add a code of conduct. And when I do, it gives you two options. So this is, I'm on my AV Static website, which is the one for our static website for nonprofits. And so this is like projects of all sizes. This is like particularly open source projects. And so some of the Agile Ventures ones already had this contributor covenant. Others we're now recommending to add them. I think pretty much most of them have got them in. And it's just like, use welcoming and inclusive language, be respectful, show empathy. These, I mean, normal human things, but so, like avoid, sexualized language and harassment and so on. And so then you can this is the boilerplate. You add your email address, and so I think this is great. You just press review and submit there, and it creates a pull request on your website. So this is, we'll put it in on that one, for that kind of code of conduct. So they've made it like really, really easy to good to have in place. They've made it really, really easy for these particular kinds of code of conduct to be added to open source projects.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so as you saw there, like, so I've added the maybe I can just go back. Yeah. So I just added the contributor covenant, which is the one like saying, we're going to submit code and stuff. I think there's reference. Is there reference to code in there? Maybe there isn't particularly, but this is the shorter one. And then this one here, the citizen code of conduct, is suitable for large communities or events. Interesting. But yeah, the slightly longer, and asks for reporting guidelines and these a grievance policy. And this is the one that I added to the Agile Ventures repo, and we merged in last week. So we've got that in there now. And so the next step was like getting these reporting guidelines in place and addressing grievances, which we now, these link to these pages. And the next step basically is like, this is kind of good to go. The next step is I'll kind of get the greeting bot on Slack to link to this and then add it in a few more prominent places on the website, like in getting started, and then we'll have it in place.
Okay. Which will be great. Hopefully, yeah. Like we said, we should just publicize it a little more.
Yeah. And I mean, this goes back. We had several discussions about it previously. I don't think it magically will increase the number of people in the community particularly, but we have had some issues of people using the direct messages for kind of harassing behavior, and I did have to remove one person from the community, unfortunately. But so given that context, it seems good to have guidelines in place, because people are coming to us from all over the world, and they have different, every culture has its different ideas, and it's easy to sort of think, oh yes, we all understand, but this makes it sort of explicit what we think is appropriate and not appropriate. So yeah, but I've been trying to make it an open process where everybody can discuss it. But the feedback has been, nobody has criticized the idea of having a code of conduct, have they, Federico?
Not at all, no. And I think by making it, more the process of merging it, including it, being transparent about that has helped to, give it a little attention, which is good.
Yeah, good stuff. Any thoughts, Sigu?
Nothing against it, actually. I think it's nice to have it there, so it can be referenced to in case of anything. I don't think new members might read through it, not all of it, but we need to have it there so that we can refer someone.
Yes.
Yeah, in case of anything, just tell them, by the way, we have a code of conduct, and in such and such a place, we expect you to be doing this and that.
Yeah.
Even though we don't expect them to faithfully read the code of conduct from page one. It's like a terms of service.
No. I mean, I think compared to some agreements, it's relatively short, but absolutely. I mean, it's kind of, and I think, we the majority of people in Agile, almost exclusively, and certainly in the public channels in Agile Ventures, people have always been, civil and pleasant to each other and so on. Also, because we have this Google AdWords thing, but the numbers of people that we've got coming in from all over the world is increasing. And occasionally there's going to be, some strange people around. So yeah, there is like some other backstory to this whole code of conduct stuff that not for Agile Ventures, but like how it came into GitHub, which I would be kind of interested to mention to you guys, but it's not essential. Do you have any other, Federico or Sigu, any other Agile Ventures community questions or concerns or business at all?
Sigu?
Not really. I was just coming in to listen. This is the first time I'm joining this meeting, so I didn't know what you guys normally talk about. So I knew that I'm coming to listen more than saying anything. So this is my first time. Maybe if I do the next one, I can.
Yeah.
I'll know what to do.
No, that's totally fine. No, and the idea of the AV community meeting is just to have a meeting where, we're not required to be talking about code or stuff. It's to create a space where, we talk about things that are not specific to any one project, and they're sort of generic to the community and any issues that might be going around. So,
like asking Federico why we don't have a Phoenix project up.
That could be a topic for this meeting. That could also be a specific topic for a meeting on 61. But yeah, Federico.
Well, staying on topic. I'm glad Sigu joined us because he made. I just want to reiterate his point that it's a good. The guidelines are good, even though people might not read them. For protocol, if there's any ambiguity about what to do, we can refer to them. That's when they'll be very important.
Yes.
And so then I can we can talk about Phoenix, but I think we should instead go to you, Sam, with the story.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. Before he forgets.
Well, I'm unlike. I just what's interesting. I mean, part of the reason that I have been hearing about the Code of Conduct is because I'm a fairly regular listener to the Greater Than Code podcast, which itself has a sort of interesting history in that the person who was managing the podcast, the Ruby Rogues podcasts, there was a conflict between the person running that and the person who was doing the editing of the podcasts, and they had a falling out. And actually, the panelists from Ruby Rogues all left, and because they like this editor so much, and they all started their own podcast together, which is called Greater Than Code, which is very, very interesting podcast and has lots of thought-provoking things in it. One of the regular panelists is called Coraline there, and Coraline works for GitHub, and I think works for their ethics community team, and I think Coraline is the person behind this her and the team, this community standards and so on. And so this, if we look for contributor covenant, I think here this is I think it's quite exciting that the covenant is also you can put pull requests into it and so on. And there's a link through here into GitHub. But what's interesting about this, and almost slightly controversial, submit a pull request. So there's we can see here, I think Coraline originally created this, and then now it's like a separate organization and so on. And you can put in pull requests to suggest changes to the wording, and a bit like an open source license. There's an ongoing process of trying to improve the contributor covenant, and so it's a very interesting thing going on. But the thing that's particularly striking to me is there's this thing referred to called Opalgate. So have you guys heard of the Opal project?
No.
But Opal, I think it's a project to run Ruby in the browser, and
yeah,
and it's been around for quite a while. But the particular thing, there's this thing here, and I'll try and bring this up without any judgment. So this is going back to 2015. Coraline brought up that one of the maintainers of this repo had been making some comments about transgender people on Twitter, and there is a huge debate here about all of that, and it's I think from our point of view, code of conduct all sounds good. There's sort of a debate raging in some parts of the open source world that about, yes, well, this is the kind of behavior that means that we need codes of conduct, and then other people saying, well, no, actually you don't need codes of conduct. There's also a thing like no code of conduct, which is, oh no, that's not the right thing. I mean, someone else was sort of, there's been some people have responded to say, code of conduct are kind of silly. You don't really need them. Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, so this is sort of the counter movement in some ways, which is saying the no code of conduct is we don't care about, I don't know. Anyway, if you're interested in this stuff, I'll just post the links in. There's there's a lot of people with strong feelings in both sides. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, and just to expand on that a little bit, I was listening to Changelog, their latest podcast, and there was a community, like a conference organizer, like I forgot her name, but she was talking about how GitHub was putting together a panel, and they were only going to have male people on there, and she kind of wrote a scathing comment or whatever, and they kind of tried to hush it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But that's sort of a different level there of code of conduct for conferences. She kind of expects a lot, which is interesting. But one of the things she says, why I bring it up, is that it's not enough just to have a boilerplate code of conduct. You actually have to customize it a little bit, you know.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think that the code, having the code of conduct in place, does not magically make everybody get along and make everybody's behavior acceptable to everyone else. And it was good that we did our pull request in Adventures, and we had some feedback, didn't we, from some community members, and we tweaked the wording a little bit. It's I mean, the other thing that it struck me, that there was also over the summer, the Google, there was like the internal memo in Google.
Oh, right. Well, that was huge. Yeah.
And so on, and the guy got, I think, ultimately fired. This was there we go. But so yeah, there's like, there's a lot of, I mean, I think fortunately we don't seem to be having too many of those kinds of conflicts in our community, and hopefully we won't. But it's and I'm almost, what's the word? It's there's a lot of strong feelings there, and I'm almost scared to discuss it for picking up, flack from the do you know what I mean? From the conflict?
No, you're scared to discuss the actual incident.
I think the whole like, when I look at these things and I see the conflict in terms of how passionate people are on both sides and how angry they are getting at each other, I'm almost scared to offer opinions about the issues. Do you know what I mean?
I actually fully understand you, because in such a situation like the Google story, I personally could not talk about it or comment about it because of the different people that I know who are having the opposite sides of the story, and they will never agree on that. And whichever the side you take, it kind of brings a problem, or I don't know how to call it, but it brings some issues with the community in general, because we're part of a community. Like, I'm part of the community, the Kisumu community in Nairobi, and there's some other communities. So some people will start having an image of you simply because you talked about it. Yeah. So they might start calling you a sexist. Or, they might call you a feminist. So you get branded names simply because you talked about something. So it's better you avoid it, just like Sam is saying. Just avoid talking about it and let whoever wants to discuss it.
Yeah, because I guess people are passionate about it. It's kind of like they say, don't talk about politics at work.
Yeah.
Right.
Because people, once it tarnishes your image with, half the people. If you say, in America, if you say I'm a Republican, or if you're a Democrat, then half the people will think, oh, well, he's an idiot,
Yes. So I'm very pleasant. Not surprised. I'm very pleased that in bringing up the code of conduct thing and getting it in place, that everybody universally in Adventures seems to be like, yep, that's, we'll agree to be nice, and that's positive. And I think, the issues in these things and about, you know, freedom of speech, but then also about, you know, empathy with others and so on. I mean, they're like really important issues, and, you know, Agile Ventures is all about, beyond code, how do we get along and how do we collaborate and how do we support each other and how do we do a good job together, you know, and scaffold each other's learning. So yeah, I'm very pleased to have the code of conduct to build, because I think the code of conduct by itself is perhaps less controversial, although, you know, now, if you look, so many products through GitHub have got it, that it's kind of becoming a de facto standard thing. Yeah, there we go. So, well, I think that's probably coming up for time on this meeting, unless we, Sigurd, really appreciate your input there. Actually, it's really interesting to hear about what you say about that experience, you know, there. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that you're either a sexist or a feminist when you talk about something.
Well, and I think it's what I see as well in the debates is there tends to be, they're polarizing, right?
Yeah,
it's difficult to take any kind of nuanced opinion because you kind of get pushed into one side or the other. Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. Anyway, yeah. Well, that was good. Yeah, AV community meeting potentially the same time next week, I guess, or not. I guess that's the last item on the agenda. Really, is working out the time for the next meeting. Any thoughts on that, Federico?
Well, I think that's more controversial than the actual code of conduct. It's what time should we have these meetings?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing, like, what we should, following the complex swapping thing that I had, next week it would go back to the normal specified thing. So let's do that next week. At this time, we'll do the Website 1 meeting, and at the slightly later time, we'll do the AV community meeting. And then I think maybe, unless Praveen comes back and says, you know, look, it really, really should be earlier, we maybe leave it there.
Okay.
Because it's sort of like, he was sort of saying, because he said ideally it would be earlier, but then he was able to make it, and we know that Joao definitely can't make it. So, and now Michael's asking me, why was the AV community meeting an hour earlier? I guess I'll send him the video of this to look at. Okay, great stuff. All right, I'm gonna stop the broadcast there, because otherwise I will not go and get my tea and get ready for the next meeting.